Is it possible to become an accidental businessman? Why would a billionaire give away his company worth billions of dollars? In this world, there are various kinds of billionaires. Some billionaires, such as Elon Musk, manage multiple billion-dollar companies and are largely successful. Other billionaires, like the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, have built business empires that rake in billions yearly. But some billionaires did not plan to be billionaires, and when they had amassed so much wealth, they decided to give it away. Yvon Chouinard has established himself as one of the biggest humanitarians by percentage in the U.S. after he announced on the 14th of September 2022 that he would be transferring his ownership in his company Patagonia to a special trust and a nonprofit organization. Many people who do not know Chouinard will be surprised by this act, but to those who know him, this is perfectly in character. So the question arises, who is Yvon Chouinard? Is he sane? And why would he give away a company worth billions of dollars? The man Yvon Chouinard, author, blacksmith, rock climber, philanthropist, environmentalist, businessman, kayaker, and most recently surfer. Yvon Chouinard is a man with many talents, and we even forgot to include that he is a billionaire who does not like referring to himself as one. He did not start out from a rich family, though, in fact, his father, Gerard Chouinard, a French-Canadian, had to move to Southern Carolina from Lewiston, Maine, where he had been born. Chouinard's father was a blacksmith, handyman, mechanic, and plumber. In a way, we can see the penchant for multiple disciplines does not fall far from the tree. Chouinard had a deep-seated love for the great outdoors, particularly for fishing and other outdoor pursuits, even at a young age. He may have inherited his father's incredible work ethic, but Chouinard attributes his adventurous character to his mother, Yvonne. It was at the insistence of Chouinard's mother that the family relocated to California in 1946. We do not have much information about his early days, but we do know that when he was 14 years old, he joined a falconry club and started getting interested in cliff climbing. It was said that he was not much good at activities when he was younger before he took up cliff climbing, a sport that was not popular back then. Whenever Chouinard references his childhood, he mentions how he was not interested in becoming a businessman or a billionaire. He believes no one really wants to grow up to become a billionaire, and that billionaires only serve as role models for other billionaires. He was on to mention how all he wanted was to be a fur trapper when he grew up. His interest in cliff climbing the first of many. We mentioned that Chouinard took an interest in falconry at a young age. Because of this interest, Chouinard later learned how to rock climb and rappel to improve his ability to investigate the falconries that were located on rock sides that were difficult to access. Since Chouinard enjoyed the adrenaline rush that came with climbing, he began to make trips to Tahquitz Rock, known for its enormous crags and sandstone cliffs. Here, Chouinard became acquainted with other young climbers who were climbing for the Sierra Club at the time, including Tian Herbert, Royal Robbins, and Tom Frost. Chouinard and the other climbers he had recently begun climbing with came to the conclusion that they needed new, more difficult walls to scale. Therefore, they embarked on a journey to Yosemite, climbing Yosemite and reinventing the Piton. Climbing Yosemite presented a whole new set of difficulties to contend with. One of the biggest was the actual gear climbers use, particularly the pitons. A carabiner, which connects to a piton and can then be linked to a climbing rope, is a metal spike with a tiny eye hole or ring on one end. The only pitons available in the 1950s were made of soft iron, which, once embedded in a rock, could not be retrieved without causing harm to the piton. This was not bad for shorter ascents like the one at Stony Point, but it proved fairly expensive for scaling massive granite faces like Yosemite, which required hundreds of pitons. Chouinard thus encountered a challenge and, like every entrepreneur, whether conscious of it or not, set out to address it. Chouinard then acquired a used coal-fired forge and a 138-pound anvil and began to train himself as a blacksmith in 1957. Chouinard used strong steel to create his new pitons rather than the soft iron that was quite common. This would solve the reusability issue by allowing users to reuse the pitons. Chouinard then went to investigate the issue solution fit, albeit unknowingly. He gave some of his new strong iron pitons to his friend T.M. Herbert, who successfully climbed many different routes with them. As with any successful problem solution fit, word spread. Chouinard began charging $1.50 for each pin as a result. He produced around 2 pitons in an hour, which is not exactly an ideal price structure. Chouinard, though, didn't do it for financial gain. He did it because climbing was something he enjoyed doing, and he appreciated the opportunity it gave him to be outside. Chouinard spent a subsequent couple of years climbing and selling pitons while living in the trunk of his car. He would often spend weeks at a time sleeping beneath rock faces. He roamed around Wyoming, the Alps, and Yosemite with his itinerant climbing band selling and climbing. He would create more pitons during the winter when the rock walls were impassable so that he could concentrate on climbing once more during the summer. The birth of Chouinard equipment and transition to Patagonia. Chouinard is considered an accidental or reluctant businessman because he never set out to pursue business. But it all sort of unfolded because he was pursuing value and his desire to be free. For Chouinard, it was not about the money, as we will soon see. In 1964, Chouinard met up with his fellow climber and aeronautical engineer Tom Frost and started Chouinard Equipment. Special high-grade pitons were their major selling product, but they continued being inventive and sought to solve real climbers' issues. As climbers themselves, they were able to focus on issues making use of their personal experiences. They recreated the basic ice climbing tools, creating the groundwork for the contemporary sport of ice climbing that we have today. And they continued to develop additional gadgets that could be used for climbing throughout the summer months. By the 1970s, Chouinard Equipment was turning about $400,000 per year. But that came at a price Chouinard wasn't ready to pay. They came to the shocking realization that their cherished steel pitons were causing damage to the rock faces. Scarring was caused by the frequent insertion and removal of the pitons. This was terrifying for Chouinard. So once again, he did what any business owner would do. He investigated the issue and devised a remedy. By 1971, Chouinard and Frost had invented Hexentrics, a revolutionary aluminum chalkstone. These were intended to take the place of the piton. The new Hexentrics might be wedged into a crack or other crevice in the rock instead of penetrating it. Surprisingly, Chouinard Equipment declared that they would cease production of pitons entirely, even though they accounted for 70% of the company's revenue. This was unprecedented, and such a dramatic step demonstrated his concern for the environment. Chouinard Equipment had become the top provider of climbing hardware in the United States by 1970, and Chouinard was seeking the next idea to improve his climbing experience after a trip to Scotland. Chouinard was visiting a little village in Scotland when he came across a shop that sold a long-sleeve rugby jersey that he thought would be ideal for climbing. The shirt was tough and warm, and the thick collar protected the neck from the climbing equipment, which frequently dug in. So Chouinard acquired it and brought it back to the American climbing routes. The garment was blue, with yellow and red stripes throughout the center. Therefore, it stuck out quite clearly among the sea of gray sweatshirts and tan chinos, with cutoffs that the majority of climbers were sporting. Climbers loved it so much that ordering them from England, New Zealand, and Argentina. Clothing was an excellent way for Chouinard to augment his hardware business. However, Chouinard Equipment was attacked in 1989. 4 claims were filed against Chouinard Equipment, all alleging that the company's climbing harnesses and other products contained inadequate instructions and warnings that led to personal injury. This ultimately resulted in Chouinard Equipment Limited filing for bankruptcy protection and proceeding under Chapter 11, which made it possible for the employees to purchase the business and rebrand it as Black Diamond Equipment Limited. Chouinard was fortunate because he and Frost opted to market the garments under a distinct legal entity, Patagonia. The name Patagonia is derived from the hilly region of South America that contains the southern half of the Andes Mountains, the oscillating peaks of Monte Fitzroy, one of the most difficult mountains to climb, inspired the Fitzroy logo's design. Chouinard was able to climb Monte Fitzroy in 1968, an accomplishment that was chronicled in the film Fitzroy. Patagonia's logo, like the North Face's homage to Yosemite and El Capitan, is intended to highlight the product's capacity to resist the hardest terrains and situations. The rugged clothing worn by fishermen served as an inspiration for the design of the pile fleece jacket, which was introduced by the firm in 1977 and was one of the earliest jackets produced by the company. It was an essential cold weather coat due to the high neck and shearling material. Sustainable materials in manufacturing. Patagonia investigated more sustainable materials and techniques of manufacture in the 1980s, including organic cotton, hemp, polyethylene terephthalate, or PET. They found a way to recycle 25 plastic bottles into one fleece product, which led to the launch of Chinchilla, one of Patagonia's hallmark materials that best exemplifies the company's commitment to producing high-quality products while reducing their impact on the environment. This resulted in the production of the Retro X series of recycled fleece jackets and vests, which included contrasting colors, a chest pocket, and hand warmer pockets on the sides of the garment. What's more, unlike its forerunners, Chinchilla did not have a tendency to pill. Patagonia continued to develop not only in the area of materials, such as the introduction of polypropylene layers to the market, as well as the promotion of the advantages of wearing synthetic underwear in extremely cold conditions, but also in the realm of design. Though the company would not consider itself a revolutionary fashion brand, its willingness to experiment with vibrant colors and all-over prints proved prophetic, as other outdoor-minded labels followed suit. Its popularity was not restricted to winter clothing. Its nylon baggy shorts and Hawaiian-inspired patalola top are both popular on city sidewalks and coastal boardwalks. Marketing strategy. However, beyond the things that customers are purchasing, Patagonia's greatest strength is in the company's ability to educate customers about what they are investing in. Patagonia has used its platform to increase awareness and activism for environmental issues, making it a pioneering model in brand transparency. Patagonia began contributing 10% of its income to grassroots organizations as early as 1986. They ran an ad on Black Friday, one of the busiest shopping days of the year in North America, to convince shoppers not to buy anything they don't need, and at the same time, they started a project called Common Threads, in which they encouraged customers to return worn items for repair and refurbishment. Ironically, Patagonia's sales were boosted unintentionally due to the Don't Buy This Jacket campaign. Struggles for Patagonia. Aside from the struggles faced by Chouinard Equipment and its inevitable conversion to Black Diamond Equipment Limited in the early 1990s, there were still other issues that plagued the newfound company Patagonia. After Patagonia got on its feet and grew at a rate that had never been seen before, the company's credit was cut off, and it had to lay off employees for the first time. Patagonia had to let go of 120 employees, who made up 1/5 of its workforce. It was a really turbulent time for Chouinard, and while seeking advice, he was advised to sell the company for $100 million. But he did not take that advice. Rather, he stuck to his guns and chose to bring his company back to profitability through innovation, and he was successful. At last check, Patagonia was worth over $3 billion, giving billions away. Chouinard's name recently popped up on the news because he and his entire family transferred Patagonia's ownership to a trust. While this is a big deal, its purpose is to channel its yearly profit of about $100 million into fighting the environmental crisis and defending nature. Many might say this is not a smart business move, but Chouinard never set out to be a businessman, and he has consistently proven this through his actions and that of Patagonia. To some, he is a billionaire by mistake. To others, he is a true example of an entrepreneur driven by purpose. And to some others still, he is one of those rare superheroes who do not wear capes. What would you make of Yvon Chouinard? We hope you enjoyed the video. For more inspiring stories like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.